Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Javier with The Real Javier Novoa, a channel, a platform, and a modality where we apply the principles of spirituality, philosophy, mysticism, and business to rapid lifestyle transformation. I have a great video for you today, ladies and gentlemen, but first I'd like to invite you, as always, please hit the subscribe button if you find value in these videos. Not only will you be able to join a community of master manifestors, but you'll also be getting alerts to all of our videos as they come out. And most importantly, you'll be helping me play my small part in this global awakening, in this awakening of consciousness, by helping us get the algorithm in our favor and getting the word out. So I appreciate you subscribing. I will give you a chance to do that. Thank you so much for subscribing. Big video for you today, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, in this modality, there's very little material that's original here. Hardly any of it started with me. In fact, we have basically, what I act as is a compiler of material that comes from the spiritual traditions of mankind, that comes from the philosophical traditions of mankind, and that comes from the greats. You see, since I was a very young man, my line of thinking was, as an empiricist, and as someone who studies the data and wants results, I'm not simply a philosopher per se or a speaker, I'm someone who wants quick results, actually, because I've always been a person of action. I've always thought that the best way to get something is to find someone who has it and then study what they did, and of course using understanding. As Ludwig von Mises said, understanding is the specific tool of the historian, because we can explain all of the other actions of mankind and everything that happens through the sciences, even through psychology, through physics, through physiology. For example, if a man hands another man a metal disc, all of the sciences can explain the chemical and physiological reactions that are going on there. Even art history can explain the image that is imprinted on that disc. But until you have understanding, you will never be able to piece together the fact that that's a transaction. Because the concept of transaction is only applicable to a human, and it is already embedded with our being as a human. I hope you understand me just a little bit. So of course we have to apply understanding and intuition to understanding why these people did what they did when we study their lives and their works. Otherwise we'll make mistakes and so on and so forth. But I've always found it easier to study the biographies of great men, to extract principles from them, and then to be able to apply those and get where I want to get faster. Well, there's nobody greater probably in the 20th century, if you want an example of someone who made money very quickly, coming from a background outside of business, and who basically surpassed all of his peers in a short period of time. There's no better illustration of this than the great Boris Berezovsky, whom we've talked about many times before in this channel, who was a great Russian billionaire, in fact coined the term Russian oligarch. And he actually had a direct and self-conscious understanding of the law of assumption of the principles that we teach in this channel. He used different wording. I was surprised as to how he knew this. He must have studied the earlier works of the New Thought authors. But however, his book, How to Earn a Fortune, is just a tour de force behind his understanding. And if you read his biographies, you're not going to be able to understand a lot of the actions that he took and didn't take unless you know his philosophy, and his philosophy is enumerated in this book, How to Earn a Fortune. That's why I spoke about the understanding. So when I got this book, which was actually only published in English, I believe, in 2019, although in Russian many years ago, I was very excited because I had an inkling that Berezovsky understood these concepts, but I didn't know for sure that he was self-conscious about it. I'm sure many great men and billionaires, men of wealth and women of wealth, are self-conscious about it. They just don't want to put it out there and say that. But he did, and after his death, this came out. So, what are we talking about here? I want to talk to you today about a very important concept in manifesting, and it's called gradualism. All of the spiritual greats talk about it. But it may seem to contradict other teachings and other videos that we've gone into that talk about just be it now and know that you are it now. And there's no contradiction there at all. We talked about the concept of paradox and how every great teaching has paradoxes. Of course, the Zen are the best at explicating this. But paradox is basically a seeming contradiction based upon the fact that you're not putting things in their proper scale on the scale of being, their proper level on the scale of being. So, for example, if we're understanding things as the whole, as the divine, which permeates everything, then we'll know that you are it. And in fact, the stronger the force of your understanding that you are it, the closer your desire is to you in time and space. Some people can manifest it immediately, but not all of us are that good. And Berezovsky discusses this in his work. So there's no contradiction between this, though, these concepts of gradualism and knowing, if you understand that we're multidimensional beings. Yes, we live in every dimension simultaneously. And it would have to be that way, because as there's no separation, so too that implies that every film roll is within us. Every possible trajectory of cause and effect in your life that could be, has been, will be, is already within you, and you can get there immediately by using your specific faculty as a human being, as a creator, which is your focus. If you focus yourself into a state, as Neville Goddard talked about, and as all of the spiritual great writers talked about, you will be there. But there's a very important concept here. If you can be in one dimension, you can be in more than one dimensions. And I just want to give you an illustration of this. We've done this in other videos, but I just want you to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, because I can explain this to you philosophically all day, but until you experience this, you're not going to understand it. So take like 2 deep breaths and just sort of shake your body out and just sort of calm down. Get into that alpha state. Now I want you to imagine yourself, you're seated in your room probably, I hope. I don't want you to be driving while you're doing this exercise. But if you're seated somewhere other than your car, I want you to imagine right now that you're driving in your car. If you don't have a car, that's fine. You can just imagine that you're driving in any car, which you will soon have if you do this enough. Now, as you're driving in that car, I want you to get a good detail. I want you to take the route that's familiar to you, a route that you've been taking. And I want you to just drive that route and see that. Don't try too hard. Just sense whatever's coming to you. Because if you notice, usually when we're somewhere, we're not paying that much attention anyway. So some people try to imagine and they try to get it perfect. They try to see all of the details. And indeed, it's beneficial to fill out as many details as you can, but it's not necessary to be perfect, because you're not perfect when you're there anyway. So just imagine yourself driving. Now what I want you to do is, while you're driving, imagine yourself back in your room, sitting in the chair that you're sitting in, but while you're driving. And you're imagining yourself, while you're driving, you're imagining yourself as sitting in the room. You can do this. So right now you're driving your car, but you're just imagining yourself sitting in your room. Now, from imagining yourself sitting in your room, I want you to imagine yourself in a garden, surrounded by flowers and plants. Just fill in what a beautiful garden is for you. Perhaps those beautiful gardens in Vancouver, which the name's not coming to me right now. Now imagine yourself from that garden driving your car, but you're in the garden, but you're imagining yourself drive the car. Now I want you to imagine yourself from driving your car in your room again. Now I want you to shift to being in your room and imagine yourself in the garden. Now I want you to toggle. Feel yourself in your room now, sitting where you're sitting, and imagine yourself actually there. Now change to the driving. You're in your car driving now. Focus and feel that fully. Now change to the garden. And now just feel yourself in the room again. And then slowly open your eyes. And you're actually going to get a shock. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just did was prove to yourself that you can live in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We often do. So, here's the exercise. And I'm going to read from the great Boris Berezovsky here and then show you how to implement it. So, Berezovsky said, a very important step is in refusing the old world, the reality created spontaneously by your parents and friends in the chaos of your childhood impressions. What now seems to you like objective reality is in truth a random collection of fantasies about the world from very different sources. This is what we call the prison grid. It's a perfect correlation here. And remember, this is not a mystic, so to speak, although he was very mystical. This is not a law of assumption coach. This is one of the richest men in Russia back in the 90s. A very practical man, a man who had no time to waste. A man who was by all accounts a very rude and hard-hitting, hard entrepreneur. And yet he understands this. I want this to come home to you, and then I want you to ask yourself how many other billionaires and millionaires understand this, like Elon Musk. He knows this very well. They're just not going to talk about it. On this channel, we expose all of this. We talk about it so that the common man can implement this and get extraordinary results. But back to the reading. This is Berezovsky again. Think for a second what the new world should be like. Maybe you're content with everything in the old one, in which case I can only congratulate you. And that's where we're all coming, to this period of contentment. That's actually when we've done everything that we came to do, and we're ready to move on to other planes. But that is a discussion for another day. Do you maybe lack something other than money? And of course, even if you have all the money that you wish, that could be a prison for you. That's why in this channel we know that money does not make you happy at root. Therefore, if you're wealthy and you're bored, there's still so much for you to do, and it's just not monetary. There are many other metrics, and you can refer to our videos on measurement for that. So it says we're now discussing only money. As an example, if you are strongly confident that you lack a certain sum, then get ready for a storm of a new reality. If you're a poor teacher and ask for $1 million, I will bet my life that you will fail. This is tantamount to an untrained athlete setting the goal of becoming a world champion. It is necessary to understand that even though there is nothing impossible for the universe, sometimes the poor win $1 million in the lottery, and as you understand, not without reason, because they can actually get into the state, and sometimes they can force manifestations, but that usually doesn't have a very good result, because it's as if you're a thief, as Neville Goddard says, and then that's taken from you because you haven't really attained the vibration. But just my commentary here. There's still much that is impossible for you. And when he says you here, he's talking about the limited three-dimensional you on this film roll. And that's why I think that Vadim Zeland, his work is revolutionary in understanding what we mean by limitation, what we mean by qadr or predestination, and what we mean by saying that you have to go gradual and can't do something. We're going to explain this here in a minute, but he says be realistic. Yes, be realistic in this film roll, on this film roll. Plan to increase your income in the next year to have room to maneuver, and by no more than 20% initially. Once I set myself the goal of doubling my income and failed spectacularly. Not because the methodology gave in, but because I could not myself come to believe in such earnings. There's a risk here. Set a goal high, fail, and you will intensify your doubts. Here's why to do this on this film roll. After each failure, it becomes more difficult to return to the trajectory of success, even though inescapable circumstances, of course, do not exist. So, and then he goes into this, but basically here, you set a stepping stone. But you do this on this film roll. This is what we're going to explain by living interdimensionally. You, first of all, when you free your energy from this film roll by setting a smaller goal, then you can get to the other film roll and abide there in the imagination, and then the trajectory doesn't simply follow normal cause and effect. For example, let me give you an example. Let's say I want $1 million, but I don't believe on this film roll that I can have that. So first I say, okay, the first step to making $1 million is $100. Make it as small as you can, but make it as large as you can also without overwhelming yourself, but make it no smaller than you'll feel bored. So don't say I want to make $10 because you can easily do that. But let's say for a very poor person, maybe making $100 would be a stretch. Let's say, okay, I'm going to make $100 now. And then you keep that in your mind, you imagine the $100, and then you try to make a plan of action to get there. Then that's off your mind. Now, while the $100 is off your mind, but you know that you're going on that trajectory, you can then begin to imagine being on the film roll of the $1 million. And you don't ask how, you ask why, and what would I do with $1 million, and then you just experience that. So while you're working on the current film roll gradually, you are there immediately on the new film roll. And then those will dovetail. While you're working on making, let's say, your third $100, you'll have some kind of windfall and you'll make $10,000. And then that'll prove to you that you can do that. And then you go from stepping stone to stepping stone to stepping stone, but they increase exponentially, not just linearly. Because we know that no one can save a fortune. A fortune has to be quote-unquote earned. The way we term in this channel, it has to be, you have to meet the vibration of that fortune. So just walk the path. As Vadim Zeland said, just put one foot in front of the other, but don't think that you're just going to get there linearly, because circumstances and events are going to happen due to the releasing of energy that's going to actually get you there faster exponentially. It's like that movie about I forget what the movie's called, but it's a great movie about this Greek young man from Turkey, I believe, who wants to come to the United States. And in one scene of the movie, he was working a very menial job, and he was saving money. And his co-worker asked him, how long do you expect to live? If you're just putting this money away, but just expecting to go forward linearly without using the tools that we give in this channel, you're most likely never going to get there. But if you do both, if you move linearly, which you have to do because the energy is calling you there, but then when you have free energy and free time, you focus on the film roll that you want to attain, I promise you events are going to organize themselves to where you get that faster than you think. The mistake that people make is saying I'm not going to do anything, and then feeling bad because they know there's something that they could do, but they're procrastinating and doing it, and then they never get there simply because of those negative emotions. Remember, it's all emotional and all vibrational. But I just wanted to go through another passage here that the great Berezovsky talks about. This is key, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we talk about in this channel, and this is the key. If you want the master key to manifesting anything, listen up to this. Berezovsky says, practicing wilpinism. Wilpinism is a combination of will and alpinism. And alpinism, of course, was the sport of climbing very high mountains. It's an athletic exercise. And he sees this applying your will to attain something. It's not force, it means attaining what you desire. It is an athletic event. It is a sport. And his thesis is, the more we practice it, the better we get at it. So he says, practicing wilponism. You must set yourself stepping stones of growth, is what we just said, on this film roll. Of course, you don't go there gradually in your state. In your state, you get there immediately, and you can get there immediately. And oftentimes, again, circumstances will happen that will show you on the physical things that you could not do on your own and could not plan. Serendipities will happen. But you, in this film roll he's talking about, you must set yourself stepping stones of growth. In the process of your enrichment, you will move from stepping stone to stepping stone, jumping higher and higher. If at some point a fall occurs, if you fell, so it just means you must return to the previous step. You set the goal a little too high, and that'll happen often. And you can refer to the video where we talked about there is no failure to explain this a little bit more here. There is no failure, but if you fail to get your stepping stone on this film roll, it just means you need to set your goal on this film roll a little bit lower so that you can get to a more adjacent film roll as opposed to trying to jump high. As Abraham Hicks says, there are no quantum leaps, or at least they don't feel very good. But if you can increase your vibration very quickly, and then you can attain what look like quantum leaps on the physical. I hope you're understanding us just a little bit here. So, he says the goal must always exist in your consciousness without at the same time coming to first plan. What he means is the goal that you're trying to achieve, or that you've already achieved through your state, that's a better pronouncement there. The goal that you've already achieved through your state must be in the back of your mind. It must be in your consciousness, but it shouldn't be the first thing you're thinking about. Because like we say in this channel, any process that you implement should be for the sake of the process. If you're applying it directly to get to what you want, you'll trip yourself up, because then you're going to judge, oh, is the process working? And that's going to energetically set you down a few notches. So, the best way is to guide it into your subconscious, not to think of it, but to vaguely feel it. As Neville Goddard talks about, just tell yourself, isn't it wonderful? Just tell yourself, I have it. He said, give yourself the fragrance of your desire throughout the day, but don't necessarily obsess over the materialization of it. This is absolutely parallel. I would be surprised if Boris Berezovsky did not read Neville Goddard. I will share my own method, he says. I used to write a certain number, my stepping stone, on different pieces of paper, in organizers, on telephone receivers, in production meetings, in ministers' cabinets, and so on. Always the number, without commentaries, without excessive explanations. I was teaching myself that this number is evident in the future, that it is mine, that it belongs to me by birthright. I am it, ladies and gentlemen. I am it, guys. This is the essence. He said it belongs to me by birthright, that I must get used to it and not be surprised when it appears in my checkbook. Yes, as Vadim Zeland said, you accustom yourself to the film roll, make it yours, get used to it, because if you're surprised or nervous about seeing it, it's probably not going to come to you because you're vibrating against it. You're not yet in the realm of that. So make yourself comfortable with the new number that you expect to see in your bank account, with your new home, with your new lover, whatever you're manifesting in the physical, you vibrate comfortably with that. And by using the process that we teach in this channel, you can get there within 3 days. We've talked about it before. 3 days is a number that's repeated over and over again in the Quran, in the Bible, and you can get there, and then it's just a matter of being pleasantly in what we call the Sabbath, and then you get it. So, this worked nearly every time, he said. Of course it did. Additionally, when I was setting a number in the last stages of my business career, when he became a master manifester, when you become a master manifester, you don't even care, because you know that it's already there. I did not at all think where it would come from, because it's there. Why would you think where it came from? Like Abdullah said to Neville, it's stupid to talk about how you're going to get to Barbados if you're already in Barbados. This is talking about exactly that. That is, I ignored the placebo of feverish and hasty behaviors typical of businessmen. I simply knew that circumstances would come together in such a way that their irreversible movement would deliver to me exactly this number, and I would only need to accept it. So most of these businessmen taking hasty behaviors, they either do it because they want to, they do it for fun, or they don't know this, but it's the hasty and nervous behaviors and thinking that you have to do it all that's actually working against them. And when they actually just let go, that's when what they want comes, but they think it was due to the hard work. That's why on this channel we teach no effort whatsoever, interior or exterior. You're going to be doing a lot in the physical, and people who see you are going to say that you're working hard. But it's not going to be work, because it's going to be driven from flow. Understand this. So, Berezovsky continues, you can take your own path, you can invent your own mnemonic device. But remember, the papers and the numbers do not work. The mind works, thought works, and everything else is placebo. If you mockingly try to test my method and with glee notice that it does not work, confirmation bias there. If you're trying to prove it wrong, you will prove it wrong. If you're trying to prove it right, you will prove it right. Law of attraction works every time. So it makes you question a lot of these quote-unquote scientific studies, but I digress. You will yourself program your favor. I have already said that facts are pliant. The universe will deliver to you any quantity of facts confirming your theory of the world. The method can only begin working when you use it with faith in success, when you plan purchases with money that has not yet arrived, when you build a cowshed for yet unborn cattle. So prepare for your fortune, ladies and gentlemen. Prepare for your abundance. Have all of the means on the physical that you need prepared for that, and it cannot but come to you. So living multidimensionally, take the next logical step. Abraham calls it the next logical step. Take the next logical step on this film roll. Abide on the other film roll. Set smaller tests for yourself, showing yourself that you can achieve that. And within a very short period of time, you're going to be a master manifester. You're going to conceive of a desire. You're going to put it as that detail, and you're not going to lift a finger. You're going to allow the universe to orchestrate it for you, and then you're going to have fun and take care of yourself. Why? Because you know the law works. It is law. It works. This stuff is amazing, and we thank the great Boris Berezovsky for leaving us such a treasury of experience and theory. So thanks, guys, for watching. More great videos coming up this week. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Get ready for Hump Day, the middle of the week. We're going to be talking about a lot more details as to how to rapidly transform your life. Get off the prison grid. You are already there because you're already it. If only you would tap into it. I am doing coaching calls, ladies and gentlemen. Email me, hit me up. I'm going to put my email in the description. We will get you. My promise to you is, if you do everything that we come to in the calls, I will get you free. You will get yourself free from a boss and a job within 6 months to a year, ladies and gentlemen. So please call me. We're also doing email coaching. It's a cheaper option for smaller budgets. Please subscribe and like to the channel. Thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for commenting on the videos. Thank you for getting us over 200 subscribers. We're going to keep going so that we can influence more people and so that we can get this message out there. Until tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, with great love and appreciation, this is Javier. We'll see you soon.